I let their teen use my Wi-Fi to submit college applications. When I asked about the $400 data overage, they blocked my number. You shouldn't share what you can't afford to lose, the father said. I checked my logs, saved the IPs, then sent them where they belonged. I live about 20 minutes outside of Spokane, Washington, in a neighborhood that's mostly made up of quiet people. The kind who say hi when they pass you at the store, but don't get too involved. It's a decent area. Middle class. Everyone kind of keeps to themselves. I work from home as a network admin for a healthcare software company. Nothing glamorous, but it pays the bills, and then some. Because of what I do, I keep a pretty detailed setup at home. I have a strong firewall, a managed switch, and tools that monitor everything that happens on my network. I don't do it because I'm suspicious. It's just second nature to me. When you've been in IT long enough, you get used to checking logs and making sure everything is clean. So yeah, I knew exactly how much data I used and from where and on which device. Every day. Back in November, my neighbor Alan came to my door with his son Trey. I hadn't seen them in a while. Our kids used to play when they were younger, but they'd all grown apart by now. Alan looked a little embarrassed when he spoke. Said their internet got cut off due to a billing issue. He asked if his son could use my Wi-Fi to submit some college applications. Said it'd only be a few days. I didn't even think twice. I have a guest network set up just for things like that. Isolated, separate from my main devices, and throttled. I gave him the password and told him it would auto-expire in a week unless they needed more time. Trey was polite, thanked me, and came over twice that week. He brought his laptop, stayed in the sunroom, didn't cause any problems. Quiet kid. I didn't ask questions. Just figured I was helping out. Fast forward about a month later, and I'm checking my internet bill like I always do. It's $413 more than usual. I have a business line with a 1 terabyte monthly cap, and I'd never even come close to hitting it. Suddenly, my usage was over 2.3 terabytes. Something was wrong. So I checked my logs. Everything pointed to the guest network. The first 2 days? Normal traffic, college websites, email, some documents. Then things changed. Late-night traffic spikes. Large downloads. Multiple IP addresses showing up. Some activity was hidden behind VPNs, some bounced through proxies. There were signs of torrent use, attempts to access restricted sites, even Tor nodes. This wasn't a kid sending applications. This was serious. And it wasn't just Trey's laptop. There were at least 10 different devices connected, some mobile phones, some tablets, a few laptops. 2 had device names I recognized. One matched a community college laptop. Another had a MAC address linked to a school-issued tablet from a district 30 miles away. I texted Alan right away. No response. I called. Straight to voicemail. The next morning, I checked. He had blocked my number. That's when I walked over to his house. I knocked. No one answered. I could see someone move behind the curtains. Then nothing. Later that day, I saw Alan getting his mail. I walked out and said his name. He turned. Looked right at me. I told him I got a $400 overage from when Trey used my Wi-Fi. He smirked. Not a hint of apology. You shouldn't share what you can't afford to lose, he said. Then he walked back inside. No offer to help pay. No concern. Just that smug little line. Something about the way he said it lit a fire in me. So I went back home and started digging deeper. I pulled all the logs. Every device. Every connection. I looked up IP addresses, traced activity, downloaded logs into clean reports. I built a file with screenshots, timestamps, DNS requests, VPN flags, everything I could find. This wasn't just abuse of my Wi-Fi. Some of this activity could get someone arrested. One of the IP addresses pinged off a site that flagged it for child exploitation content. I didn't even want to know the details. But I saved it. I made 3 packets. One went to the local police department's tip line. I marked it anonymous, but I included all the details. One went to the school district for the MAC address tied to the student tablet. The third went to Alan's employer. I knew where he worked, an insurance firm with a big presence in Spokane. They had a code of conduct online. Employees are expected to maintain lawful behavior on and off the clock. So I sent them a USB drive with the files and a short note. This network activity came from a device traced to your employee's home. You may want to investigate. 3 weeks passed. I didn't hear anything. Then, around 10:30 on a Friday night, someone rang my doorbell. I looked through the peephole. It was Alan. He looked different.
Pale.
Nervous. I opened the door and waited. You called the cops? He asked, his voice tight. No, I said. I sent the logs where they needed to go. He looked at me, breathing heavy. You ruined my job. I didn't say anything. You happy now? He snapped. Over some internet bill? I stared at him. You blocked me when I asked about it. You treated it like a joke. You're a snake, he said. I said, no, I'm just done being quiet. He stood there like he wanted to say more but didn't. Then he turned and walked off my porch. After that night, I didn't see Alan for a while. His car was gone most days. I figured he either got fired or transferred. I didn't really care which. He made his choices. But the fallout didn't end there. A week later, I got a call. Blocked number. I almost didn't pick up.
But something told me to.
A woman's voice came on the line. Quiet. Nervous. Is this the homeowner on Meadow Ridge Drive? The one who sent the file? I didn't say yes or no. Just waited. She said she was an investigator with the local sheriff's office. They were following up on a report that matched some flagged internet traffic. I asked if I needed to come in. She said no, just that they were looking into the devices trying to trace ownership and I might get contacted again. That's when I knew it was bigger than just Alan. A few days later, a police car showed up at his house. Parked for almost 2 hours. I watched through my front window, blinds tilted. Trey came out first. Then another younger kid I didn't recognize, maybe a cousin, maybe a friend. Both got into the back of the car. The officers weren't in a hurry. That's how I knew it wasn't some misunderstanding. Alan didn't come out at all. Then that night, my doorbell rang again. I was ready this time. Porch light on, phone in hand. It was Shelley, Alan's wife. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying. She didn't say anything at first. Just stood there with her arms crossed like she was trying not to fall apart. Why would you do this? She finally asked. I was caught off guard. Do what? Ruin our family, she said. You could have just come to us.
I did, I said.
He blocked me.
He was scared, she said.
Trey's not a bad kid. He got in with some friends who do stuff online. He didn't know it was illegal. I looked at her. So, you want me to pay for it? No, she said, suddenly angry. But you didn't have to burn everything down. That made me pause. I wasn't trying to destroy a family. I just wanted someone to take responsibility. You let your kid use someone else's network, I said. Someone gets hurt, that's on you. She shook her head like she was done trying. Then she looked right at me and said, he was trying to impress those friends. Now they're gone, and so is everything else. Then she turned and walked down the steps. I shut the door and locked it. But I didn't feel satisfied. I didn't feel anything. Later that week, another neighbor stopped me while I was getting my mail. Todd, the guy across the street. We'd only talked in passing before. He looked around like he didn't want to be overheard. You were the one who called the cops, right? He asked. I didn't answer. He nodded anyway. Just so you know, a few of us are glad you did. I raised my eyebrows. He said, Alan's kid used our Wi-Fi too. We thought it was just video games or something. But then my kid found something on his laptop that wasn't right. We thought it was a virus. I asked, did you report it? He shook his head. Didn't know what to do. Didn't want to stir anything up. Then he looked at me and said, you did the hard thing. I didn't feel proud. I just felt tired. The whole thing kept unfolding. A week later, someone from the school district emailed me, official request for logs, timestamps, any other information. I sent what I had. Turns out at least one of the devices used my network to access stolen credentials from a school portal. Another had flagged content downloaded that automatically alerted a watchdog site. The more I heard, the worse it got. And I kept thinking about what Alan said. You shouldn't share what you can't afford to lose. That line played in my head over and over. Because it turns out he was right in one way. I had shared something I couldn't afford to lose. But it wasn't just bandwidth. It was trust. I figured that would be the end of it. Cops involved, job lost, Trey probably facing something in juvenile court. But it didn't end. A few weeks after everything seemed to quiet down, I got a letter. No return address. Just a plain envelope with my name printed, not handwritten. Printed, like from a label printer. Inside was a single sheet of paper. It said, "You think this is over? It's not. Watch your back." That was it. No name.
No signature.
No clue where it came from. I stared at it for a long time. My first instinct was that it was Alan, but part of me knew he wasn't stupid enough to put something in writing after all this. Then again, he'd already lost a lot. Maybe he didn't care anymore. I called the sheriff's office and reported it. They said they'd log it, but unless something else happened, there wasn't much they could do. So I installed cameras, upgraded my security system, put up motion sensors in the yard, even added floodlights over the driveway. I hated that I felt paranoid in my own home, but I wasn't about to let this spiral. The strange part was, nothing happened for weeks. Then one night, around 2 a.m., I got a ping on my phone from the motion sensors. I opened the app. A figure was on my driveway. Hood up. Walking slow, like they were trying not to be seen. They came up to my porch, didn't knock, didn't touch anything, just stood there for almost a minute. Then walked off. I didn't recognize them. Too dark. Face mostly hidden. But they knew where I lived. The next morning, I reviewed the footage frame by frame. No plates on the car parked across the street. No clear shot of the face. I handed it all over to the sheriff again. They said they'd increase patrols in the area. I appreciated it, but it didn't make me feel any safer. Then another twist hit me from a completely different direction. I got a call from a woman named Janice, a contact from a private cybersecurity firm. I'd worked with her years ago during a security audit. She said someone had submitted a complaint about my network, that I'd allegedly been distributing illegal material. I was stunned. She said it came through an anonymous tip line, but she flagged it because the name didn't match the style of the original report. Something about it seemed retaliatory. "Do you think someone's trying to frame you?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. But I knew. They weren't just done with me. They were trying to flip it. I had the logs. The proof. Everything clean. I sent a statement and copies of my original reports. Janice cleared me, flagged the complaint as malicious and unsubstantiated, and sent a warning to whoever submitted it, probably Alan, or someone tied to him. But it shook me, because I'd spent my life working in cybersecurity. I knew how easy it was to make it look like someone did something they didn't. I knew what spoofing looked like. I knew how IP redirection could twist a truth. So I started second-guessing everything. What if they got smarter? What if they tried harder? After the false complaint got cleared, I thought things might cool off again. But it was just the eye of the storm. One afternoon, about 2 months after that creepy porch visit, I was working from home. Normal day when I lost access to my company's VPN. Everything shut down. Email, remote desktop, even my admin credentials locked me out. I called IT security. They said my login had triggered a flag. Multiple failed access attempts, someone trying to brute force into sensitive directories under my user ID. I hadn't done any of that. My blood ran cold. I got on a video call with one of our lead engineers. She pulled the access logs. Someone had tried to breach our internal client server using my credentials from an IP in my own town. The IP matched the same subnet as my residential provider. They were trying to make it look like I'd tried to hack into my own company. I told them everything. The neighbor, the overage, the police, the logs, the anonymous complaint. I forwarded everything I had. To their credit, they believed me. I'd worked with the company for 9 years. Clean record. But the fact that someone had gotten that close, that they'd actually tried to blow up my career, that hit different. I realized this wasn't about money anymore. or the Wi-Fi. This was about humiliation. They were trying to destroy my name, slowly in pieces. So I started watching them. Alan's house was quiet most days, but I set up more discreet cams pointing at the street. I tracked every car that came by. Any plate I could catch, I recorded. I also set up decoys, fake guest networks, honeypots with tracking software. I waited, and about 3 weeks later, I got something. A connection attempt. Repeated pings from a device labeled HP Tray Laptop. It wasn't even masked well. They hit one of the decoy networks, tried to log in, failed, and left a digital fingerprint. So I followed the trail. Used everything I knew: packet headers, MAC traces, port scans. What I found floored me. The device had been used to connect to 3 other homes in the neighborhood. All unsecured networks. All showed signs of similar abuse: large data pulls, encrypted uploads, suspicious connections to servers in Eastern Europe. I printed it all. I called a neighborhood meeting. I wasn't even sure who'd come, but 6 people showed up. I told them everything. Showed the logs, the attempts, the attacks. Half of them had no idea what had been happening. But one man, older guy named Rick, got real quiet halfway through. Then he said, "My wife's been getting weird texts from some account that said they had private photos of our daughter." Everyone went silent. I asked, "Did they ask for anything?" He nodded. Said if we didn't pay, they'd post them. We thought it was fake. It wasn't. We called the police again. This time, with a whole stack of data and a room full of angry neighbors. The sheriff himself showed up 2 days later. By the end of the week, they served a search warrant on Alan's house. What they found: hard drives, old phones, SIM cards, USB sticks with content that didn't belong to anyone in that house. Some of it was illegal.
Some of it was stolen.
But all of it had been pulled from neighbors' homes. Devices left unlocked. Kids' school files. Personal photos. One family's tax documents. All funneled through my network, or someone else's, and used as a shield. It was a digital smash and grab over months. And it had started with a simple request to borrow some Wi-Fi. I still keep my Wi-Fi locked down, tighter than ever. Cameras, logs, alerts, every angle covered. But the truth is, I don't feel safe. Not because of what they did, but because I saw how easy it was. How fast people will turn on you when it costs them nothing. And now, every time someone asks me for help, I hear his voice in my head, plain as day. You shouldn't share what you can't afford to lose. And the worst part is, I think he was right.